The planet was a wide sea of sand under the light of two suns. The air was hot and dry, and the wind carried the taste of dust. Long ago, this place had rivers and green lands, but now it was empty. Deep under the ground, a huge shape slept, covered by layers of sand and stone. It was Thrain, the alien dragon. Thrain had once been strong and bright. His scales had shimmered like silver under the twin suns, and his wings had stretched across valleys that now lay dead. He had been the guardian of the great rivers that flowed across his world. But when the rivers dried, and the people left or died, Thrain stayed behind. He had waited for the rains to return, but they never did. Centuries passed. The world forgot him. The wind blew the same sad song day after day, and Thrain listened in silence. He could not move. The dry earth had turned to stone around him. His wings were heavy, and his throat burned with endless thirst. He remembered the sound of water, the sweet rush of rivers, and the cool mist that had once covered his scales. Now even the memory felt far away. Sometimes, in his dreams, Thrain saw flashes of the past. He saw himself flying over wide blue lakes, and children running along the riverbanks, waving to him. He had been their protector, their friend. But when war came and the sky burned with fire, the rivers turned to steam. He had tried to stop it. He had fought until his wings failed. In the end, he had fallen, and the desert had claimed him. The stars above had changed. New constellations filled the sky, but Thrain could not see them. He only felt the heat and the silence. He thought he would sleep forever. Sometimes, small creatures crawled across the sand above him, unaware that a giant heart still beat slowly below. He could feel the life on the surface, tiny, weak, but alive, and that gave him a faint sense of hope, though he could not explain why. In the deep quiet, Thrain thought of water. He dreamed of it every time he closed his eyes. He imagined cool rivers flowing over his claws, imagined rain falling again from the dark clouds that once blessed this world. His mouth was dry, his tongue cracked, but still he dreamed. The dream was the only thing that kept his spirit from fading away. One day, after many ages, something strange happened. A tremor passed through the sand above. Thrain stirred slightly, surprised that he could still feel movement. The sound was not of the wind or storm. It was sharper, quicker, and came with a rhythm. It was the sound of footsteps. He listened. They were light, careful steps moving closer. For a long time, no living thing had walked near this place. The ruins that covered him were ancient, half-eaten by sand. But now he sensed new energy, something alive, something curious. Thrain tried to open his eyes, but they were sealed by dust. He pushed with his will, and the sand above trembled faintly. A beam of light touched his face, blinding after so long in darkness. He felt warmth again, not from the cruel suns above, but from life, from something pure. He wanted to call out, but his throat was dry as stone. A soft sound came from deep within him. A whisper carried through the ruins. It was weak and cracked, but it escaped. The footsteps stopped. For the first time in countless years, Thrain waited, hoping that whoever had come would not run away. He remembered the faces of the children from long ago and wondered if this being, whatever it was, would understand him. Maybe this was the end, or maybe, at last, the beginning of something new. The wind slowed. The air grew still. Beneath the sand, the dragon's faint heartbeat began to rise. Somewhere above, a small shadow moved closer to the broken stones that marked his prison. The dry world held its breath. After so many centuries of thirst, the guardian of the rivers was about to awaken again. Lily Carter walked carefully across the endless desert, her boots sinking slightly into the soft sand. The heat was harsh, and her suit's temperature regulator buzzed quietly as it tried to keep her cool. She looked up at the twin suns, one pale and the other red, both shining like fire. The planet seemed empty, lifeless, but her scanner told her otherwise. There was something buried deep beneath her, something strange. Lily was part of a small exploration team sent from Earth. Their mission was to search for ancient alien ruins and record signs of lost civilizations. Most of her teammates stayed close to their landing site, but Lily liked to explore alone. She felt drawn to this place, to the silence and mystery that surrounded it. Her scanner beeped softly. The readings were weak but steady, a faint pulse of energy coming from under the ground. She frowned and knelt, brushing away the sand. Beneath the surface, she saw something dark and smooth. It wasn't stone. It was something else, something alive. Lily called over her radio, but the signal was weak. The wind carried too much static. She decided to stay and check it out herself. Using her small digger tool, she began to clear the sand. Bit by bit, a large shape started to appear, a curved surface that shimmered faintly, even in the harsh light. The more she uncovered, the more she realized how massive it was. At first, she thought it was part of an old machine or ship, but as she brushed off more sand, she saw what looked like scales. Her heart started to beat faster. The shape curved like a huge skull, with ridges and ancient carvings worn into its surface. She stepped back in awe. Couldn't be real. It looked like the head of a creature, a dragon. A soft tremor passed through the ground. The sand shifted under her boots, and she stumbled. For a moment, she thought it was an earthquake, but then she heard something else. A deep, weak sound, like a sigh carried through the earth. It wasn't the wind. It was alive. Lily froze. The sound came again, a low hum mixed with a whisper. It was ancient and tired, like a voice that had not been used in centuries. She didn't understand the words, but she felt them. They spoke directly into her mind. It was a plea. One single word formed in her thoughts: water. She gasped and stepped closer. Her hands trembled as she looked at the great, half-buried face. The mouth was cracked and dry. The eyes were closed, but faint light pulsed beneath the lids. The creature was alive barely. Lily looked at her water pack. It wasn't much, just enough for her to last the day. But the voice echoed again, weak and soft: water. She hesitated. If she gave it her water, she might not make it back to camp before sunset. But something deep inside her told her she couldn't walk away. She took a deep breath, unscrewed the cap, and poured the water carefully over the creature's mouth. The water shimmered as it touched the cracked scales. A faint blue light spread along the dragon's skin, like veins awakening after a long sleep. The ground trembled softly, and warm air rose around her. Lily stumbled back as the dragon's eyes slowly opened, two glowing orbs of deep gold staring right at her. She couldn't move. She was too stunned, too amazed. The dragon blinked once, then twice, as if trying to remember what it meant to see. When he spoke again, it wasn't through sound, but through her thoughts. "You are human," the voice said, soft and ancient. "You carry kindness still." Lily's heart raced. She had no words. She just nodded slowly, tears forming in her eyes without knowing why. She could feel his pain, centuries of thirst, loneliness, and silence. Yet she also felt his gratitude. The air around them began to hum with strange energy. The sands rippled, and the ruins nearby glowed faintly, like they were awakening too. Lily realized this place was not just a tomb. It was a sleeping world, waiting for something to stir it back to life. The dragon lowered his head slightly, his golden eyes soft. "You have given what I could not take. You have awakened the last guardian of this world," he said. Lily took a deep breath and whispered, her voice shaking. "Who are you?" "Thrain," came the answer, deep and calm. "And you, human child, have returned the first drop of life to a dying world." The wind rose again, carrying dust and light around them. Lily stood there, amazed, not realizing that this single act of kindness would soon change everything. For her, for Thrain, and for the planet itself. The golden eyes of Thrain glowed faintly as he looked at Lily. The desert wind slowed, and everything around them seemed to fall silent. Lily could feel his presence not through sound, but inside her thoughts. His voice was deep, calm, and heavy with sadness. She felt small in front of him, but not afraid. There was kindness in the way he looked at her, like a memory of something gentle from long ago. Lily stepped closer, her boots sinking into the soft sand. She raised her hands slowly, unsure if she was doing the right thing. Thrain did not move, only watched her with quiet eyes. She touched his scale lightly. It was rough and warm, and under her palm, she felt a faint heartbeat. It was weak, but it was there. He was alive. "You have slept for so long," Lily whispered softly, almost to herself. "How can you still be alive?" Thrain's answer came gently in her mind. "Time does not end for those who are bound to their duty. I waited for the rivers to return. I waited for life to come back. But it never did." Lily frowned. She looked around at the dry land, at the endless dunes. "This world used to have water?" she asked. "Yes," Thrain replied. His thoughts came with soft images that formed in her mind. She saw wide blue lakes and green fields. She saw beings of light and wings flying through silver skies. And in the middle of it all, she saw Thrain, shining like a star, guarding the great rivers that ran through the valleys. The vision shifted. The skies turned dark. Fire rained from above, and the rivers boiled into steam. Strange machines filled the air, and the ground split open. Lily could feel Thrain's pain. He had tried to protect the world, but the destruction had been too great. The rivers dried, and the people vanished. When the last drop of water was gone, he had fallen into sleep beneath the sand, waiting for a day that never came. The vision faded, and Lily found herself standing before him again. Tears filled her eyes. "That's so sad," she said softly. "You were all alone." "Alone," Thrain repeated in her thoughts. "Until now." Lily felt warmth spread through her chest. She smiled weakly, trying to hold back her tears. She could hardly believe what was happening. She had come to this planet expecting only dust and ruins, but now she had found something alive, something ancient and full of history. "Why did you call me?" she asked quietly. "Why me?" Thrain's eyes dimmed slightly, as if he were thinking. "Because your heart answered. The world still listens to kindness, even across the stars." Lily didn't know what to say. She sat down beside the dragon's head, her small figure dwarfed by his size. The heat from his body was faint but steady. She could hear the wind moving through the ruins, soft and lonely. "Is there anything I can do to help you?" she asked after a while. Thrain's golden eyes blinked slowly. "Water wakes me, but life restores me. The heart of this world is buried deep. It sleeps as I have slept. If it is awakened, the rivers will flow again." Lily tilted her head. "How can we wake it?" "You will know when the time comes," he said simply. His voice carried a tone that was both gentle and ancient, like a whisper of wind through old stone. She nodded, unsure but determined. "Then I'll help you, Thrain. I promise." For a moment, silence filled the air again. Then the dragon's great head lowered slightly in a slow, graceful bow. "You speak with truth. Few of your kind still do. The stars have grown cold, but perhaps there is still hope." As the suns began to set, the sky turned gold and purple. Shadows stretched across the sand. Lily looked at the dragon, lying among the ruins, and knew that her life would never be the same again. She had found something greater than discovery. She had found a friend from another age, and together, they were about to wake a world long forgotten. The next morning, the light from the twin suns spread across the desert, warm and golden. The ruins shimmered softly, and the air was calm. Lily woke up beside the resting dragon, her body stiff from sleeping on the sand. For a moment, she wondered if it had all been a dream, but then she saw Thrain's golden eyes watching her, calm and alive. "Good morning," she said softly. Her voice cracked from thirst. She had almost no water left. Still, she smiled. Thrain's deep voice echoed gently in her thoughts. "You stayed." Lily nodded. "I couldn't leave you." The dragon blinked slowly. His scales shimmered faintly now, showing signs of life where they had once been dull. The air around him carried a faint coolness, as if the world itself had started to breathe again. Lily stood and looked around. She noticed small traces of moisture on the ground, like dew on the sand. It was impossible. There hadn't been water here for centuries. She touched it and felt the dampness on her fingers. She looked up at Thrain in amazement. "Is this you?" she asked. "It is the beginning," he replied. "The heart of this world remembers the taste of life. When I drink, so does the land." Lily smiled, though her lips were dry. "Then we'll bring it back. Somehow." She reached into her pack and found a small energy cell used for power tools. An idea came to her. If she could connect it to her scanner, maybe she could track the flow of energy Thrain mentioned. She sat on the sand and began adjusting the settings. Her hands shook from exhaustion, but she kept working. Hours passed, and the twin suns climbed high. The heat pressed down on her, but she didn't stop. Finally, the scanner beeped. It picked up a faint signal deep underground. A pulse, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. "Thrain," she said, looking up. "I think I found it. The core. The heart you spoke of." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. "Then you have awakened what I could not reach alone." Before she could answer, her communicator crackled to life. "Lily, this is Commander Ethan Brooks. We lost your signal yesterday. Report immediately." Lily jumped at the sound. She had forgotten her team completely. "Ethan, you need to see this. I found something. Someone." Static filled the air, and then Ethan's voice came back, sharp and worried. "You're not authorized to be alone out there. Stay where you are. We're coming to get you." Lily looked at Thrain. His eyes dimmed slightly. "They will fear what they do not know," he said. "They'll understand," Lily promised. "I'll make them understand." Dust clouds appeared on the horizon an hour later. 3 exploration vehicles rolled toward her, kicking up sand behind them. As they drew closer, Lily stood between them and Thrain. She waved her arms to signal them to slow down. Ethan stepped out first, his face pale from the heat and worry. "Lily, what in God's name are you doing out here?" Then his eyes widened as he saw the massive creature behind her. He froze. "Is that alive?" "Yes," Lily said quickly. "Please don't be afraid. He's not dangerous. His name is Thrain. He's been here for centuries." Ethan raised his weapon by reflex, but Lily stepped in front of him. "No," she shouted. "Don't. He's not our enemy." The ground trembled slightly as Thrain moved his head. His golden eyes met Ethan's. The commander lowered his weapon slowly, breathing hard. This is impossible." Thrain spoke through the air, his voice like a deep hum. "Humans walk the sands once more. The stars have turned many times since I last saw your kind." The team stood in stunned silence. No one dared to move. Lily turned to Ethan. "He's trying to bring life back to this planet. We have to help him." Ethan looked at her, torn between fear and awe. Finally, he nodded. "All right, show me what you found." Relief flooded Lily's face. She turned back to Thrain, who gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod. The air shimmered faintly again, cooler now, and the scent of moisture filled the breeze. In that quiet moment, as humans and dragons stood together under the burning suns, the first signs of hope returned to the dead world. And for the first time in ages, Thrain felt something he had thought lost forever: trust. The camp was set up near the ruins before the night came. The twin suns sank slowly below the horizon, painting the sky in gold and red. Ethan's team worked quietly, their eyes often glancing toward Thrain, who rested in the sand like a mountain of silver and gold. None of them could believe what they were seeing. A living alien dragon, something out of legend, lay only a few meters away from their tents. Lily sat close to Thrain's head, her small lantern flickering in the growing darkness. She was tired, but she couldn't sleep. The air around them felt charged with something she couldn't explain, like the world was waiting for something. Thrain's voice came softly into her thoughts. "You bring light to a world that forgot it could shine." Lily smiled faintly. "You make it sound like I've done something great." "You gave water to one who could not ask," Thrain replied. "That is greatness enough." Lily looked up at the stars. They were different from Earth stars, sharper and brighter. "You said this world had life once," she said. "What happened to it?" Thrain was quiet for a moment. Then, A warm light spread across his scales, and images began to appear in Lily's mind again. Clearer this time. She saw a beautiful world filled with rivers that shone like glass, forests that whispered songs, and beings who lived in peace with the land. They worked with the dragons, not against them. Together, they built cities of crystal and light. But then the images changed. She saw the skies fill with ships and fire. Strange machines poured smoke into the air. The people who once lived in peace began to fight. The rivers darkened, and the ground cracked open. The dragons tried to stop the destruction, but the storms of war were too strong. Thrain showed her his last memory, the moment when the final river dried and the last dragon fell. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She could feel his sorrow like it was her own. "That's awful," she whispered. "All that beauty gone." "The world forgot its balance," Thrain said. "When greed took root, the rivers turned to dust. My kind were bound to the flow of life itself. When the rivers died, so did we. But I could not leave. I stayed, hoping one day the stars would send a voice of kindness." Lily looked at him with quiet awe. "And that was me?" Thrain's golden eyes blinked slowly. "It was your heart that woke mine." Behind them, Ethan approached carefully, holding a datapad. "Lily," he said softly, "we've been scanning the area. There's something buried deep beneath this site, some kind of energy field. It's alive, just like you said." Lily stood quickly. "It's the heart of the world. Thrain told me about it. If we can reach it, we might be able to bring the planet back." Ethan frowned. "You really believe that?" Before Lily could answer, Thrain turned his head slightly, his golden eyes glowing brighter. "She speaks truth. The heart sleeps beneath the old river bed. If awakened, the life of this world will flow again." The other scientists gathered around, listening in disbelief. None of them dared interrupt. The dragon's voice carried a weight that made them silent. Ethan hesitated, looking at Lily. "If we do this, it'll take everything we have. Our energy reserves, our time, maybe even our safety." Lily looked at him firmly. "Then we do it anyway. For him. For this world." Thrain's head lowered slightly, a gesture of gratitude. "You remind me of those who once walked beside us," he said. "Humans and dragons, bound by trust." The wind blew softly across the camp, carrying the scent of moisture again. The sand sparkled faintly under the stars. It was as if the planet itself was listening to their words. Ethan sighed and nodded. "All right, Carter. We'll do it your way." Lily smiled. "Thank you." Thrain looked up at the sky. "The heart waits. When it wakes, you will see the memory of rivers once more." The team prepared through the night, setting their equipment and mapping the underground structures. As Lily watched the lights flicker and the sand shift in the wind, she felt something stir inside her. A sense of purpose. This wasn't just exploration anymore. It was redemption. And above them, Thrain closed his eyes, whispering ancient words in a tongue older than the stars. The air shimmered faintly, and for the first time in 1,000 years, a single drop of rain fell from the empty sky. The next morning, the humans began their work. The desert was still, but the air carried a strange hum, like something deep beneath the surface had started to stir. Lily stood beside Thrain, watching her team set up power lines and scanning tools across the ruins. The ground shimmered faintly under the twin suns, and the sky held a pale silver glow. It felt as though the planet itself was waking up. Commander Ethan gave quiet orders to the crew. "We'll focus the energy stream here," he said, pointing to a large stone circle half buried in the sand. "If this structure connects to the underground power source, we might be able to restart it." Lily nodded and looked at Thrain. "This is it, isn't it? The heart you spoke of." Thrain's golden eyes glowed softly. "Yes, the heart of this world lies beneath the circle. It is the breath of life that once fed the rivers." Lily took a deep breath. "Then we'll bring it back." For hours they worked in the scorching heat. The humans set up energy transmitters and drilled small holes into the ground to insert their cables. The air was heavy with tension and hope. Thrain watched silently, his massive form casting a long shadow over the ruins. As the suns began to lower, the machines were ready. Ethan looked at Lily. "We're at full charge. Once we activate it, there's no turning back." Lily stepped forward. Her hands trembled slightly, but she didn't hesitate. "Do it," she said. Ethan pressed the control pad. A low hum filled the air, deep and powerful. The ground began to vibrate. Sand shifted, and light burst from the cracks in the ancient stones. The entire ruin glowed with pale blue energy, spreading outward in veins of light. Lily gasped. "It's working," but the energy suddenly faltered, flickering like a dying flame. The machines groaned, and alarms beeped. "Power's dropping," one of the engineers shouted. "It's pulling more energy than we can give." Thrain's voice filled their minds. "It needs a living spark. The heart must be awakened by life, not by machines." Lily looked up at him, her face pale. "What do you mean?" "The world remembers kindness, not command," Thrain said softly. "It must feel that again." Lily hesitated only a moment before she ran to the glowing circle. Ethan shouted after her, "Lily, stop. It's too dangerous." But she ignored him. She placed both her hands on the shining stone. The surface burned with heat, but she didn't pull away. Thrain's voice echoed in her thoughts. "Give it what you gave me. Give it the will to live." Lily closed her eyes. She thought of Thrain's pain, of the dead rivers, and the beauty that once was. She thought of Earth, of her people, of hope. "You can live again," she whispered to the ground. "Wake up." A sudden pulse of light shot through the ruins. The machines shorted out, sparks flying into the air. The sand lifted in waves, and the circle blazed with blue fire. The humans stumbled back, shielding their eyes. The vibration deepened into a heartbeat. The sound was slow and strong. The ground split open, revealing channels carved with ancient symbols. From the cracks, water began to rise. Clear, cold, and bright. Poured over the stones, running down into the dunes. Lily fell to her knees, gasping as cool mist surrounded her. Thrain raised his head high, and for the first time in ages, he felt true moisture on his scales. The air around him shimmered with light. Ethan stared in disbelief. It's raining," he said. Small drops fell from the sky, landing softly on the sand. The team stood in silence, watching as the world changed before their eyes. Thrain looked down at Lily, his eyes glowing warmly. "You have done what I could not," he said. "You gave life where there was only death." Lily smiled weakly, her hair wet from the first rainfall in centuries. "We did it together," she said softly. As night fell, streams of water flowed across the dunes, carving paths through the sand. The air was cool and sweet, and the stars reflected in the forming pools. Thrain stretched his great wings for the first time in countless years, droplets falling like jewels from their edges. "Rest now, young one," he said gently. "The world will remember your name." Lily sat beside him, watching the rain. For the first time, the dead planet breathed again. And above them, the twin suns sank below a horizon reborn in blue and gold. In the days that followed, the once-dead planet began to stir with new life. Thin rivers flowed through the cracks of the desert, and mist hung low in the morning light. Strange green shoots broke through the sand, fragile but alive. The sound of running water echoed between the canyons, a melody the world had forgotten. Lily stood near one of the newly formed streams, kneeling down to touch the cool surface. It was pure and clear. She smiled softly, her reflection rippling in the water. Behind her, Thrain rested, his great wings half spread as he basked in the damp air. His scales shimmered faintly now, not gray but a pale silver blue. Ethan and the rest of the team worked tirelessly, studying the alien mechanisms that had reawakened. "These systems are alive," one of the engineers said, his voice full of awe. "They're self-repairing organic technology. It's rewriting itself now that power's back." Ethan nodded but looked toward Lily. "She started this," he murmured. "Without her, we'd have never seen this world breathe again." Lily rose and walked to Thrain. "It's working," she said. "The heart of this world is alive again." Thrain lowered his head until his eyes met hers. "You gave it life," he said quietly. "But the work is not yet done. The heart beats, but the veins are still broken. If they do not heal, the water will fade once more." Ethan overheard him and joined them. "What do you mean by veins?" "The pathways that once carried water to every part of this land," Thrain explained. "They were sealed by time and sand. They must be opened again." Lily looked at Ethan. "Then that's what we do next." For several days, the team followed Thrain's guidance. The dragon led them across dry valleys and broken cliffs, showing where ancient conduits lay buried. They used their scanners and drones to map the underground channels, repairing what they could with their tools and the alien energy network. One evening, as the twin suns set, they reached a massive canyon, deeper and wider than anything they had seen. At its center was a black stone monolith half sunk in the ground. Symbols pulsed faintly across its surface. Thrain's voice was filled with emotion. "This is the core, the last gate that binds the rivers." Ethan frowned. "Can we open it?" Thrain looked at Lily. "It will open only for one who carries light within. It responds to life, not command." Lily hesitated, then stepped forward. "Like before." "Yes," Thrain said. "The planet knows your touch." She placed her hands on the cold surface. It was smooth and strange, like living stone. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of warmth spread beneath her fingers. The monolith began to glow with blue light. Cracks spread across it, releasing beams of soft energy that stretched down into the canyon. The ground rumbled, and from deep below came the sound of rushing water. The canyon filled with mist, and then a river burst forth, roaring with power. It flowed down the valley, glittering under the twin suns. Ethan's crew cheered, their voices echoing across the newly formed cliffs. Lily stepped back, watching the light fade as the river took shape. Thrain lifted his wings, droplets flying from his scales like silver rain. "You have done it," he said proudly. "The veins of this world run once more." Lily looked around, her eyes shining. "It's beautiful." Thrain's voice softened. "This planet will live again, and it will remember the kindness of those who restored its breath." Ethan placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. "You've made history, Lily, not just for Earth, but for something greater." She smiled faintly. "For life." As the night came, the stars reflected on the new river. The desert was no longer silent. The sound of flowing water and the quiet hum of reborn energy filled the air. Above them, Thrain spread his wings wide, rising slowly into the glowing mist. His body gleamed with light, no longer a creature of dust, but a symbol of renewal. For the first time in ages, the alien dragon soared again, and the world beneath him was alive. Morning light broke over the horizon, painting the reborn world in gold and blue. Rivers shimmered across the valleys, and mist rose from the canyons where the water had returned. The air was cool and full of life. Birds, small, glowing creatures that had somehow survived deep beneath the surface, now took to the skies again. The world that had once been dead was breathing. Lily stood beside the new river, watching the gentle current flow past her boots. Her reflection danced in the water, surrounded by light and motion. Behind her, the camp was being packed up. The mission was nearly complete. Ethan's voice carried across the valley. "We've gathered enough data to fill a lifetime," he said with a quiet smile. "Command will never believe this until they see it." Lily smiled but said nothing. Her gaze was fixed on the horizon, where Thrain rested on a rocky ledge. His wings stretched wide in the morning sun, scales shining with silver-blue light. He looked stronger now, alive in a way he hadn't been since they found him. As she walked toward him, the ground hummed faintly beneath her feet. The planet's pulse was steady now, deep and rhythmic. Every breath of wind carried the scent of water and new growth. Thrain lowered his head as she approached. "The world thanks you," he said softly, his voice like distant thunder. "The heart beats again, and life will spread. You have done what the stars themselves could not. Lily looked up at him. I didn't do it alone. My team helped, and you guided us. Thrain's eyes glowed warmly. Yet it was your heart that woke mine. That is what this world remembers. She hesitated, her voice quiet. Will you stay here now? Guard it again. I will, Thrain said. My duty is not over. The rivers need time to grow strong. When they flow freely to every corner, I will rest once more. Lily nodded, sadness and pride mixing in her heart. I wish we could stay longer. You must return to your own world, Thrain said gently. Your people will need your light too. You have reminded this world that kindness still exists. Perhaps you can remind yours. Ethan called out from the camp. Lily, we're ready to depart. She turned back to Thrain. I'll never forget you. Thrain's golden eyes shimmered. Nor I you, child of water and heart. When you look at the rain, think of me. Each drop is a memory of what you gave back. Lily smiled through her tears. Goodbye, Thrain. The great dragon bowed his head. Goodbye, Lily Carter. May your skies never run dry. As she walked back to the ship, the sun rose higher, turning the rivers to ribbons of light. The engines roared softly, lifting the craft above the valley. From the viewport, Lily watched Thrain spread his wings wide. He soared into the air, gliding over the shining water below. His roar echoed through the mountains, a sound not of sorrow, but of triumph. Ethan looked at her. He's free now. Lily nodded. And so is this world. As the ship ascended into the atmosphere, the planet beneath them glowed with patches of green and blue, life returning after centuries of silence. Lily pressed her hand against the glass, watching the world shrink beneath them. A single drop of condensation slid down the window, catching the light. It looked like a tear, or maybe the first drop of rain. Far below, Thrain landed beside the river once more. He gazed at the sky where the human ship had vanished, then looked at the flowing water. A soft rumble escaped him, a sound like contentment. He closed his eyes and whispered ancient words of blessing to the wind. And the wind carried his voice across the reborn land. The dragon who had suffered centuries of thirst was no longer alone. The world had remembered how to live again.